You know, I want to ask you about being the president of BYU,
Yeah.
because it has so much, of course, day-to-day operational importance, but it also has just so much significance, both here in Salt Lake, but of course around the world, given the relationships that the church and the university have. And so I wonder if you can just share with us some of your insights into how you develop both that very public personality that you have to have in terms of what you represent, and how you sort of dovetail that with the actual role of just being the president and keeping the university together.
Yeah. Well, that's a good question, and I'll try to respond to it. But let me just say this in a general sense for those of you that will be thinking about leadership positions in the future. I've decided over the years that there are really two sets of criteria that you have to be aware of. One is the set of criteria that are necessary to get the job. And then the second set of criteria are those characteristics and talents and so forth that make it possible to do the job. Mm-hmm. And one of the reasons that we, in our medical leadership, academic medicine leadership, tend to see it's not really a normal curve. It tends to be more bimodal. And that is, you see some people that get in and out very quickly because they're people that have the characteristics to get the job. I mean, I hope you understand how impressive Dr. Lee's academic and research accomplishments are. It's really very, very impressive, and we should feel very lucky, as I do, that she's here at the University of Utah. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you can always transfer those characteristics to managing the kind of a place that you do. And so there are always those kinds of challenges. Now, BYU is a unique place. Some of you know exactly how I got in this fix, and some of you may be wondering. It's taken us almost a year here at the U to name Dr. Pershing as our new president, which, by the way, I'm very enthusiastic about. David Pershing was just beginning his deanship in the College of Engineering while I was still in leadership here, and because bioengineering is such a big deal at this place, you can imagine we had a lot of interaction, and we've remained good friends over the years. And I think that this is a very, very wise decision on the part of the university's leadership and the regents to bring him in. This isn't to diminish any of the other candidates, a couple of whom that didn't get their names in the paper, I know pretty well, and they're all fine people, but I think that David Pershing is terrific, and so I'm glad to see that happen. The Board of Trustees of Brigham Young University and the other members of the institutions of the church educational system, the LDS church educational system, are constructed like no other that I know about. And for example, President Hinckley, our immediate past president, used to say, he said, I don't know why it always takes the U a year. He's an alum of the U. But it always takes him a year to choose a new president. We get it done in about 15 minutes.
We need more divine inspiration.
Yeah. Well, you know, or you hope it isn't that he just ate something for lunch that he shouldn't have had. But in my case, I was serving in what we call a presidency of the 70, and so it's a position of responsibility. And I got a phone call one day, and his secretary said, President Hinckley would like to see you when it's convenient. I said, you want me to come right now? That'd be fine. My office is on the 3rd floor of the building at 47 East South Temple. If you know, as you go downtown, just east of the Joseph Smith building. And anyway, I went downstairs, and he said, I've got to go to a meeting. I've known him well for a long, long time, so it wasn't that we were needed to do any, getting acquainted kind of things. He said, President Bateman, who was the former president, also a BYU undergraduate, MIT economist, has done a great job. We've got other things we want him to do. We'd like you to be president of BYU. I've got to go to a meeting. And as I walked up, he said, we'll talk more next week. And I said, fine. He said, now, don't tell anybody. You can tell Sharon, but don't tell anybody, because I haven't told the rest of the brethren, meaning the leadership of the church. And he didn't for a couple of days. This was on a Tuesday, and he had his meeting with them on Thursday, and then I started to hear from all of them. So I hadn't campaigned for the job. I wasn't even requested to take it in a formal way. He said, we'd just like you to be, and because of my assignment, assumed that I'd do what he asked me to do. So that happened. Now, it is interesting. I've always been active in my church, even the years that I was here. And by the way, I never felt any discrimination or difficulty. The Health Science Center has just been a great place. One of my most favorite people, Amy's dad, a devout Catholic and a surgeon and intern. Lots of reasons why we couldn't agree, and it turns out we're very best friends and always have been. And so that was a wonderful kind of a thing. But it was quite a challenge, I think, for some people at BYU. I'd been on a couple of the national advisory boards. I'd been well acquainted with really three of the immediately previous presidents in various ways. With two of them, for example, my family and I shared a 1/8 share. They each had a 1/8 share on a houseboat at Lake Powell. Your folks have been on that boat, Amy, and so the other five guys that have had those shares really have been nervous over the years that maybe that was how you got to be president of BYU. But I think people were quite shocked, but none more than I, because if you know anything about BYU, it's, I think, a very fine university, and in some respects is a very excellent university, but it doesn't do what the U does.
Had there been a physician president before?
No.
No.
No. Been a few lawyers, but and PhDs, but never been a physician president. My guess is that I know that President Hinckley knew of my clinical background, but he knew of my involvements here. Somebody that he was close to on an earlier search had nominated me, which when they were looking for a University of Utah president, these things happen every few years at most places. But I suspect that a couple of other people that some of the names you'd recognize, but I don't have their clearance and to talk about it, suggested that I might be able to do it. Or it may have just been that he felt that he wanted to really shake some people up down there. I don't know.